ranking the top 10 safeties in the 2025 NFL Draft. One guy that me and Keith disagree on is Nick Emenwari, the big athletic star from South Carolina. We have that discussion and more coming up next.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast covering your favorite draft prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your boy, Damian Parson. I'm an offensive draft analyst over with Bleacher Report. That's my guy, Keith Sanchez. He is the director of scouting with the Draft Network and 2019 national champion with those LSU Tigers. And as always, thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our every day as we keeping the top 10 rankings post-combine, post-free agency, rolling with safeties. We're going through 1 through 4, 5 through 7, and then 8 through 10. We're going to talk about just some of these guys that you need to watch in this class. But before we get into that, today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDON NFL for $20 off your first purchase. Let's start off with Keith's list. Like I said, 1 through 4. His number one safety off the board is Georgia's Malachi Starks. At number 2, he has Penn State's Kevin Winston Jr. At number 3, he has Lathan Ransom out of Ohio State. At number 4, he has Billy Bowman. Billy Bowman out of Oklahoma. And then at number 5, sorry, I'm about to get too ahead of myself, Keith. Stop it at 4. We start at 4. And then for me, number 1, I have Malachi Starks as well. We're chalk on that situation. Number 2, I actually have Notre Dame's Xavier Watts. At number 3, I have Nick Emenwari from South Carolina. At number 4, I have Andrew Makuba from out of Texas. Keith, let's talk about Nick Emenwari a little bit. I saw him last Tuesday at the Pro Day. They literally made it. They knew what everybody came there for. The scouts, the media. He was the last. That was the last group to practice to work out. They made sure no one left early because we had to get what we came for. I mean, he looks exactly what he looks like on tape. 6'3", 6'4", 215, 20 pounds or whatnot. Really fluid mover. The explosiveness, the athleticism. One thing I really paid attention to with him was just how coachable he was. Like every single drill, like he was dialed in, like he was locked in the entire workout. And I was watching on this film and just listening to people and there. I heard a couple times that they and I see it on film. He wasn't swimming, but at times he was thinking a lot and not reacting. And from what I gathered, it was like he had a lot of responsibilities. And I was like, yeah, you could tell. Like he wasn't just like comfortable. Like I think it was maybe Missouri game I was watching, and he's getting to his drops. He's playing half man between the high low read, and it's like somebody vacates their area and now he's like, okay, what do I do from here? Because now I got a guy that's open in the flats, but then if I take the flats, this corner route off the smash concepts is wide open. And it's like just different things. Like there was some coverage breakdowns I saw. I think this guy's he's what you want in a strong safety, right? Like that guy that can match up. He's a good man-to-man cover guy. I think he's better in man than like backpedaling a ton. He's going to be +1 in the run game, that box defender as well. But I think you use him from man-to-man, box defender to that robber in zone, like when you're playing like cover 3, stuff like that. With his instincts in coverage, he does read things well. And when he sees it and he hits it, I mean, he has interceptions. We've seen that on tape. I think he had 4 this year. It's a lot of meat left on the bone for this young man. And I think his ceiling is immensely high. It's all about, again, with all these guys, it's all about where they land and what scheme they fall to. You get him with the right DC, he's going to be an absolute problem.
Yeah, I guess I'll explain it from my perspective, right? First, I'll kind of say I didn't necessarily see the 4.3 he ran, right? On film, I seen it in spurts, right? And the thing that I had with Nick, because people must obviously see that I didn't have him in my top 4, was just the man-to-man ability and how fluid his hips were. That's what I had question marks, right? Like, I know big guy that can run, but I thought he's more of a straight line guy. Like, even his interceptions, I seen more in, and it's a good thing, right? I just think, like, is what you said, that he's a box, he's a strong safety, right? Like, he's gonna be that +1. in the run game. He can be a big, maybe a big nickel, right? Be a extra linebacker in some situations. I think he's a closer to the line of scrimmage guy versus playing 10, 12, 15 yards off of the ball. Like he has some reps doing some of those things, but I when I watched film, just seeing a little bit of tightness, lower body tightness, right, to be able to transition when covering those slot wide receivers and things like that. Or, if they running digs and, you have to trigger downhill, being able to transition quickly, things like that is what I've seen with Nick. But I like him as a football player. I just probably don't have him as high just because I probably view him as a specific in the box safety.
Yeah, I think he's going to be more, instead of like matching him up against a lot of receivers, he's going to be more of a tight end matchup guy because he's going to have the athletic profile, the strength, the height, where most safeties don't have that combination of physical ability to go up. You might be able to move with a tight end, but you're 5'10" and he's 6'5". You know what I mean? You're getting boxed the heck out at the catch point. Like it's just like, or if you are 5'10", but you're 215, you don't have the athleticism to run with them. So he has all of those things. I will say, I think some of his change of direction stuff, to me, when I watched it on film and seeing him at the pro day, it feels like to me it was more of a thought process, like just thinking, not reacting, not just moving, like being a natural mover. You see him just the wheels spinning at times. I think it's just them flooding him with a lot of responsibility, flooding him with a lot of calls and different things like that. Visually, he has to develop to just trust himself, like trust what he sees and go and make the play. Like at times he's just a little bit too, not timid, but non-reactionary. Like he's second guessing. He's not moving the way that you want him to. Because when I saw him at the pro day, he dropped, he turned, he pivoted extremely well, and I was like, oh yeah, he's just moving. Like, you know what I mean? He's following the directions. He's just moving. You don't see a guy that's out there thinking. Now, granted, that's a workout compared to playing in the game. I think getting him in that like specific role, at least early on, I think that's where it needs to be. Put him in that role that he's going to flourish in as a rookie the first year or two, and let him naturally develop everything else. When the game starts to really slow down for him, I think that's where you get to see him fully blossom as that prospect. But Keith, going back to the top four, let's see. You had, I think I had Watts at 2. Who was your? Okay, yeah, you had Kevin Winston Jr. Kevin Winston is interesting because the way that you kind of feel about Eamon Warrior, about the rigidness, I see that with Winston. Mm-hmm. Like his back pedal is very choppy and rigid. I think he's going to be a box player than a true deep. I feel like his range is good, going from high to low. I don't like him as much staying high and going higher back into the secondary. I think he's going to be a good, that intermediate, like robber defender rather than like a pure deep safety. Because they played him, granted, he only played like one full game, that was with West Virginia. He was like the free safety in that game, like single high on top of the roof, things like that. And I was just like, even like his click and close, like his back pedal to, I don't know if you saw the interaction between Asante Samuel and Coach Prime about the T-step on Twitter, and like all the DBs are talking about it. But like, I think he's a T-stepper, but like it's not fluid. Like it's rigid. It takes time for him to just backpedal and trigger downhill. I think you want to eliminate that from his game and just let him work downhill as a defender.
Yeah, no, I can see some of that. I like them because I thought he was quick twitch. I thought he was explosive. I thought he triggered downhill well. I thought that he played with almost a reckless abandon for his, and that might be why he's partially injured, right? Like just for his body, right? Like he just got after it, right? Like, hey, if I got the C gap, I'm coming in. I thought that there was a lot of range to him. I thought that he had good length. And I think he's just been an out of sight, out of mind prospect, obviously with the injury. But I mean, if he comes back 100%, like I said, just everything that I seen on film, I was like, oh, hey, if this is still the same guy, then I really like this guy and what he can do as a safety. But DP, that was safeties 1 through 4. Let's go 5 through 7. Let's have that conversation coming up next.
Imagine watching your favorite team live, feeling the energy of the crowd and witnessing unforgettable moments. There's nothing like experiencing a big game in person. Getting tickets shouldn't be stressful. That's where Gametime comes in. making it easier than ever to grab last-minute seats at unbeatable prices. Game Time Picks curation makes it easier to find better value for tickets to sports, concerts, comedy, theater, etc. Guys, I'm telling you now, just go check the Game Time app, and there will be amazing deals on some huge matchups that are coming up. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDON NFL for $20 off your first purchase. That's LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Safeties 5 through 7. At number 5, Keith has Texas safety Andrew Makuba. At number 6, he has Nick Emmanwori out of South Carolina. At number 7, he has Sebastian Castro out of Iowa. For me, at number 5, I have Kevin Winston Jr. At number 6, I have Billy Bowman from Oklahoma. And at number 7, I have Lathan Ransom. Keith, Billy Bowman is an interesting guy. This is a guy we both liked on film. Like, his film is good. He had a good Senior Bowl. He tested very well at the combine, right? The problems I have with Billy that I think that it's going to rear its ugly head is the size at the NFL level, because he's a really, like, he fits that nickel safety, the movement skills, the coverage ability, and all of that. But it's like when the ball is thrown and you're going up against, nowadays we see the George Pickens in the slots. We see these bigger receivers work down and give them that two-way go and let them be that big power slot, whether it's a Cortland Sutton, a George Pickens. You get Devontae Adams out there sometime at 6'2", like these bigger body receivers, or even these big flex tight ends. You know what I mean? Not even talking about just the Travis Kelce, but you get matched up on the Brock Bowers in the slot. You get matched up on Sam Laporta. Some of these bigger guys, he's got like sub 29, I think, on the arm. So be able to try and play through the body of a defender is difficult. He's going to have to be a guy that's going to, like, the timing of the reading and the timing of his breaks in man is going to be paramount, because if he reads it well to where he can break and get underneath it, I think that's where he can make the most plays on the ball, rake through the hands, stuff like that. But if he's put on the backside of the post, I think it's going to be really tough. It's going to be an uphill climb for him to impact those type of plays. He runs the alley. He's tough. He's physical. He's gritty. The results are just a little mixed with his tackling because he doesn't have the biggest body or wingspan. He's just he's a tough eval for me, because I'm like, where do I play you, or how much do I play you, I guess is the question in the NFL that I have, and I'm not too sure right now.
Yeah, DP, I have to be honest. I'm all gas, no brakes. Oh, Billy Bowman, you know that. I hear the concerns. The way I look at it is sometimes situations, right? You can't have it all, right? The big guys want to always cover, the small guys want to always tackle the best. I look at Billy and I just think that he's a versatile defender, right? You're talking about a guy that, as long as he's willing to get in the way and make a tackle, I think that he's going to be sufficient enough tackling, right? But the part of the game that you can't teach, and you just talked about it with Nick, I feel like it's the exact opposite with Billy, the instincts. This guy doesn't second guess himself at all. Like, he sees stuff, he watches it, he jumps routes, he gets in the mix, he has extreme ball skills, pick six, 100 yards, he does it all. I think he's just and I say this, and I don't say this lightly, he's one of those Tyrann Mathieu defenders. Like, I think very similar in the capacity to where what Tyrann did in college is legendary and probably won't be replicated for what it meant at the time, right, as a game changer. Right, but I'm talking about in the NFL, what Tyrann has done as far as, the position, the role he's played, things like that. And I think that he will he be able to contest every rep with DK Metcalf? No, it won't happen, right? But at some point, how many guys could? Because some guys just flat out can't cover him. Some guys flat out just can't run with him. So, I'm going to pick the guy with the instincts that can make me a few plays. And there are a lot of safeties that you look at it as, not big, right? You talk about Jesse Bates and what Buffalo had too with Micah Hyde, and I'm blanking on the other safety. Like, I just view him as one of those guys that, hey, at the end of the day, going to make a play. You look at Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, who we talk about as one of the best playmaking nickel/safeties. He's not a very big guy, right? But he simply makes plays for the defense. And that's why I like Billy. Like, I think he can just flat out ball at the end of the day.
No, I mean he is like that. That his game is going to be so predicated on the instincts because when you come in, I mean the 5'10" is not really the biggest problem for me. It's the 28.5-inch arms. Like that's where it's like, oh crap. Like you know what I mean? Like yeah, it's gonna be a little bit because he had like 50. I think PFF charted him for like 15 missed tackles this year. So it's like that. You know when you talking about like just it's like okay, will you be just that rotational safety, like okay, third downs, the passing game was where we want you to impact, or you a guy that I can start freely in the NFL, like we talk about Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, Brian Branch, like that, because the new safety is that nickel hybrid. Like it's no more gone are the days that we're looking for Ed Reeds. Now, to be honest, crazy enough, we're looking for more of the Troy Polamalu's, like that movable piece in the secondary that can do different things. And it's like, okay, where so you being like say all cast no breaks, Keith. Are you if you drafting Billy Bowman, are you starting him? Is he going to be one of your like top 2 safeties week 1, like just starting as a rookie or just period? Like, are you starting him or are you kind of working him in more rotational?
Yeah, I'm probably starting him if I'm running. I mean, but it depends on defense, right? Obviously, if I'm running a 4-2-5, I feel extremely comfortable starting this young man. Letting him play free, work his way to strong, some nickel, do some different things like that. But I like I said, I'm comfortable with what he brings because the size deficiencies, he's excellent. I feel like in all of the other categories when it comes to ball skills, instincts, and it'll be one thing if he didn't even attempt to make the tackle, right? But he gets there, he arrives full body, and I just need you sometimes to hold on to the rest of the cast gets there, to the rest of your teammates get there, because I just like I said, the range, like he just understands the game of football, and he can punt return, kick return. I just think he could do so many things for a team that is like, hey, why get this guy off the field? And you know, we talked about this before that been told that like the NFL is a track meet anyway, right? Like these conversations I have at LSU, like so many of our NFL guys, they come back smaller than what they were in college. Because they're like, yeah, I need to be able to run, right?
For sure.
And so I look at it from that capacity too. Like I think he'll be okay. Like as long as he's not the smallest guy in the NFL, period, I think he'll be all right.
Nah, I mean, that's why I said I think he's going to be a good player. It's just more so like how much do you play him? Where do you play him? Put him in the most advantageous situations. Think if a defensive coordinator figures that out with him, I think it's good. I think I have Bowman behind Makuba because there's like Makuba coming at 5'11", 186, 30 inches on the arm. Another fast guy, 4.45 in the 40. But this is to me when I look at similar to Billy Bowman, instincts are there. A guy that can play man. He drops off in zone. He can play robber. He could do so many different things. He's the type of safety that you can disguise coverages with. Come out in too high, rotate down into cover 1. He's the robber. Then he's a striker. He's a heavy hitter, and he's not like you. The way he hits, you would think he's 205 pounds, but like he. Because I remember the interaction going back to the Ohio State game. Him and Quinshawn, like those two were getting in each other's face. Like he and I interviewed him. I talked with him off camera, and everything like that 2 years ago and whatnot when I had the Locked On Clemson pod. Yeah, he's the way he plays, like he talks like that too. High football character, studies, works hard. But yeah, if he needs to make that striking blow, he's gonna make it. You know what I mean? You go back to that Georgia game, SEC championship game. Was it? I can't remember the quarterback, the backup quarterback, Gunner, or whatever his name was. Thinking that he could run.
Stockton, I think.
Yeah, Gunner Stockton, thinking that he could just run up the middle, and this is like 7-on-7. No, big fella. I know you haven't played in a while, but this ain't 7-on-7. This 11-on-11. This hit football, and I'm pretty sure he got concussed in that game because of Andrew Makuba and that big hit. So he's a willing tackler. He's a secure tackler for the most part, but also the coverage ability and the coverage diversity with him. And I think that's why for me is like I feel like I'm a little bit higher than the consensus of the draft community, but I really like what Andrew Makuba brings to the table because I know I could do so many different things with him and do it well with him.
Yeah, I mean, and I'll put Billy and him in the same conversation. That's why those two are two of my favorite safeties. I think they both do some of the same things, and even to the tackling point that you made with Billy, Andrew tackled much better this year, right? Like last year when we talked about at Clemson, it was a lot of being there and then not finishing, right? And
Yeah.
I think this year he made plays consistently. I said this every time Texas was in a big game, Andrew Makuba showed up and showed out. That's why both of those guys, like I said, two of my favorite pieces. I think they're similar at what they do, but still two of my favorite safety prospects because they fit to, in my opinion, that safety nickel hybrid to where you don't have to give up too much of one thing, right? To where
Yeah.
they both can cover. They'll show up in the run game. Or they 100% efficient tacklers? No, but they'll show up, slow the stuff down, if not make the tackle, and then they have instincts in the passing game to be able to make a play. But DP, let's do this, man. Let's go with safeties 8 through 10, rounding out this list. Coming up next.
Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our every day of safeties 8 through 10. At number 8, Keith has Notre Dame's Xavier Watts. At number 9, he has Clemson's R.J. Mickens. At number 10, he has Jalen Reed out of Penn State. For me, at number 8, I have Sebastian Castro from Iowa. At number 9, I have R.J. Mickens. Now, number 10, I have Jalen Reed. Keith, you know I was high on Sebastian Castro coming out of the summer. Watching his tape, like the way that Iowa used him. His 2023 tape was better than 2024. They're not, of course, him being like I think he's gonna be like a 25-year-old rookie. So that's a little tough. But then he's not the athletic defender that you like. If he ran 4.45 like Makuba or 4.42 or 4.43 like Billy Bowman, I'm like, yeah, I'll be like you, Keith, all gas, no brakes. This dude's physical, he can cover. He'd be a +1. He played he played like kind of the star backer role that they had specifically at Iowa. When they needed him to, I think he did for almost a full season in 2022, I believe it was. Like he's such a versatile guy, wear many different hats for your secondary. I think he's going to be that box/nickel type of safety. Well, you can get away with him in like 2 high shells, to cover up the speed. You have him from hash to sideline and like center fielder, middle of the field, both sidelines. Like he's not going to do that type of stuff for you. And I think with him, because of the speed deficiency, he's going to be a guy that you have to play that 2-man under with, where if he does get beat, it's not, hey, you're panicking because there's no help over the top. No, we want you to play underneath because he's instinctive enough to turn, look for the ball, locate it, make a play on it. I think he's one of those, in basketball, they have those guys that aren't the most physically talented, but they're tough, they're instinctive, they're gritty, they bring so many different things. The glue guy, I think he's the glue guy to an NFL secondary, given the opportunity. He may not do every single thing and do it to the highest of athletic standards, but he is a good football player that can do things for you and really help. Similar to, we talk about with Billy Bowman and Makuba kind of disguising some things. He can blitz. He's one of the most physical defensive backs in this class. Like this dude is super physical. He will make big hits. He wraps up in tackles. I think he's just going to be a good football player, a good, solid football, just a steady Eddie guy. I think that's what you're getting from Sebastian Castro.
Yeah, I think the 40 time was probably going to impact more of where he gets drafted more than I think what his play is. Because I think if you draft this guy and you put him in a situation to be that hybrid second, third level, probably more second level defender, you're going to get it. Like you're going to get high level play. I think this guy, and I said this, he reminds me so much of Sidney Brown from a few years ago. Just how he plays, the range, like you said, the physicality, like he arrives being a thumper. He triggers quickly. Like you could tell he understands the game of football. He's a sideline guy as far as his run game and in pursuit. So I still like him a lot. And if I'm an NFL team, I'm sitting there, I'm like, hey, okay, cool. If we felt like we was gonna have to draft this guy in the second round, we may go get him in the third. If we felt like we was gonna have to go get him in the third, we may go get him in the fourth, just because his 40 time is probably gonna knock him down for a lot of teams. Now, where does the 40 time impact it for me? like you said, simply the man-to-man situations, right? In situations where he plays man. But if there's a scheme or schemes where there's a lot of zone invoked, I feel comfortable with him, right? I
Oh,
feel comfortable
100%.
with him rolling from, the third level to the second level and being able to jump some things, just different things like that. Being able to show blitz and be able to sink out into that hook curl kind of, area. I think that this guy, he's going to give an NFL team some valuable reps. I think also the way he plays, there's some guys to where you like what they play, how they play, but then there are other guys where you say, you know what, these are culture changing type football players just because of how they're always all, like I said, all gas, no brakes. They play full speed, high motor type of football players. The way they set the tone for like, hey, how we play defense, right? And
Yeah.
that's what I think Sebastian Castro is.
No, 100%. I think, like you said, with the zone, mention the zone. Like, man, you run a cover 3, he's in that nickel spot. He's gonna quick jam that slot. He's gonna drop off, and he's one of those guys that hot read, that quick flat route. He's the one of those guys you got to be weary of because of his instincts. He'll see it, read it, and jump it and make that play. And he's the type of guy that can take the ball away from a defense. Keith, tell us why you hate Xavier Watts. No, I'm just kidding. Why are you lower on Xavier Watts? Then seems like most people have him kind of in that top 4 of the safety rankings. Why are you have him at 8?
Yeah, I like Xavier Watts. I think he falls more in the bucket. Like I told you, to me, he comps directly to Brian Cook out of Cincinnati a few years ago. I probably think they're the exact same football player. And listen, and we talked about lists, right? And lists are, we talked about with the running backs that you almost have to pick a theme. And the theme for me, right, were guys that I felt like can play both sides in the sense of the fact of not run game and passing game, but in a passing game, it's man and zone, right? And when this thing goes to man, who can hold up? And that's why I had obviously Billy Bowman's, Makuba's, up there. I feel like this was Xavier. I think he's a strong safety, and I think that's fine, right? But just how we have to look at the coin from 2 different elements, right? Is that, and I think we had this conversation with Nick too, is that, hey, okay, cool, he can cover tight ends. Yeah, that's fine until there's no tight ends on the field, right? And then who does he cover, right? And I have to think about in not in worst case scenario, but almost worst case scenario that, okay, in emergency break glass, that if they get them matched up with slots, right? Or if the defense plays man, or if they motion guys and then now he has to kick out to the number 3, which the number 3 is the speedy slot receiver, then what, right? And I look at it from that perspective, and I like Xavier Watts. I just have the question marks, the same I had with Nick, was just like, okay, cool, being able to hold up in man-to-man situations, how do they hold up? But I like Xavier Watts. I still think he's probably top 100 player for me in this draft class.
Yeah, I think to that point, like if you get, it's rare that you don't see a tight end on the field, but if you get those situations, that's what you see. You look to the sideline, defensive coordinator calls, we're getting out of man, we're going to cover 3, we're going to cover 4, drop into a quick zone, let you get to your landmark. Because he isn't going to, those shifty slot receivers are going to give him trouble. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he's more tight end, running back, man-to-man cover guy than, Christian Kirk, like one of these like Greg Dortches. You don't really want him against those type of guys where their change of direction is so quick twitch, so just fluid to get in and out of breaks. But and then I think RJ Mickens is just a very underrated safety in this class. A lot of people didn't watch Clemson's defense. I'm pretty sure they're gonna watch a ton of it next year with all the top 100 prospects they have on that defense for next year. You know what I mean? Trust me, the scouts were, at the Clemson Pro Day, the scouts were absolutely surrounding and looking at Peter Woods and TJ Park. They were looking at the guys for next year. They had their eyes watching and showing respect to the 2025 prospects, but they were side-eyeing like, I can't wait to see this kid play next year. Like, he's probably gonna be a top 10 pick, in type of Peter Woods and those type of guys. But with me, RJ Mickens, another strong safety that just does multiple things for your defense. I remember talking to McCuba, and I asked him about RJ. He said RJ is just a really smart, sound player that knows whatever you call, he's going to run it to the way that you design it. Like, he's not going to do a bunch of freelancing. He's going to get to his spots, get to his landmarks, and he's going to disrupt the play if the ball's thrown to him. And I saw, like, to me, it was crazy because I watched him in person. you get to see kind of feel the speed a little different. And I
Hmm.
appreciate the speed that he showcased at his pro day. You know what I mean? Being able to backpedal, turn, pivot, that zone turn, getting from middle of the field. Like he showcased more speed in person than he did, I think, in the positions he was put in. Because I think he ran like 4.4, if I'm not mistaken. Like I think he ran well and tested pretty well, if I remember correctly. I think at the combine and everything like that. So because he didn't do his athletic testing at the pro day, so I'm pretty sure he stood on his combine numbers and everything. So I think it's just a guy that's underrated. Like, out of Clemson, 6 foot, 200 pounds. Yeah, he went 4.49, 155, 41 and a half inch vert. He tested well, and I think that showcased at his pro day when I saw him in person. I think he's going to be a good rotational guy early on for a team.
Yeah, I agree too. I feel the same way about RJ. I think he's gonna be just a solid safety in the NFL. Could play a little free, play a little strong,
Mm-hmm.
make tackles, play a little, play a little man, play a little zone. Just kind of
Yeah,
could do it
big
all to where,
nickel.
like you said, kind of be a glue guy to where some of those safeties, and you notice about sometimes just being in the right place at the right time matters the most. Playing the safety position to be dependable
Facts.
and be in the right spot, and then as long as you're a high character guy, you think about. I'm not putting his name out there because it's a totally different brand of football, but like why Ryan Clark thrived, right? There was no
Yeah,
athletic testing that jumped off the roof or anything like that. And he was never as great as Troy Polamalu, right? But he was just a
right.
dependable guy for that Pittsburgh Steelers defense to where he was always in the right place at the right time, just making the play that needs to be made in his area or his range, if they playing zone or something like that. But DP, that wraps up another episode, man, of the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I want to end this podcast off by saying shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day. Every listener is greatly appreciated here. I am Keith Sanchez. You can find me on X at the Talent Code. That right there is my guy, my co-host, Mr. Damian Parson. You can find him on X at DP_NFL. And like we like to say, man, y'all come talk to us because we like to talk back.
Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube or if you listen to podcasts to get the latest episode as soon as it is available. On tomorrow's show, we're getting into the cornerbacks, the top 10 cornerbacks for the 2025 NFL Draft post-combine, post-free agency. Where does Siobhan Revel and Benjamin Morrison land on this rankings? Come and join the conversation tomorrow to find out on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.